So before we start, this is a warning that this review is going to dive in a lot of the spoilerful details of this movie. So if you haven't seen this movie yet, I highly suggest you to first watch it and then come back to this review, or you can watch this and decide for yourself. You are your own human being, so do whatever you want, and this is the warning. Tenet, Christopher Nolan's movie and possibly the savior of 2020 cinema. I am usually horrible with synopsis, so I'm just going to read to you the letterbox synopsis, which is probably taken from IMDb or whatever. John David Washington's character, the protagonist, that's it, that's his name by the way, armed with only one word, Tenet, and fighting for the survival of the entire world, the protagonist journeys through the twilight world of international espionage on a mission that unfolds in real time. That is pretty fake, I must admit, but it's also pretty accurate description of the film if you don't want any spoilers, which is how I want films like this to be done. A couple months ago, I did a reaction to the Tenet trailer when it first came out, because at the time I still think that it was, coming out as a summer blockbuster. It sort of still is, but it came out a lot later, and I watched it in the cinema at the I, the Amsterdammers among us will know. Tenet is kind of a combination of multiple movies that Nolan had made in the past, and it feels like an accumulation of those movies. You can tell that he's obsessed with the concept of time that he's dealt with in Inception, Interstellar, and in Dunkirk as well. And this film really is like him breaking that idea apart and making a very original idea out of it. So time is really the centerpiece of this film in particular, and it's a very high concept that could be lost in the general public, but the magic of a Nolan movie and the why they are so popular, have such mass appeal, is because they are quite complicated concepts, but everybody can enjoy them, and afterwards can think about it. They're not particularly difficult movies to watch. I can see why he insisted on releasing this movie in the cinema, although he is well known to be very traditional when it comes to filmmaking, especially in the year 2020 when so many films are going to the streaming route. He took this film, and it's really important that you need to see it in the cinema because it's a really loud film, and if you watch it at home, you probably will turn down your sound, but it felt like, like the seats were shaking. The plot in the end is fairly straightforward. You shouldn't think too much about it. I mean, protagonist needs something, villain has something, protagonist needs to take that to save the world, and it's basically that. And you just need to let the scenes just wash over you. When you're watching a Nolan movie, as you're inside the movie, I noticed that it's best to just not question anything, to just let it happen. Just let it happen around you. And then afterwards, when you're thinking about it, then you can piece of it together. Because now I'm thinking about it for a couple of days, and it makes so much more sense than when I was watching it or when I just stepped out of the cinema. I was like, what the hell was that? But now, after a couple of days, I kind of appreciate what they were doing, and I like the movie now more than when I first come out of the cinema. So just sit back, relax, let the film just wash over you. It's okay. I find it the best way to watch any Nolan movie at this point. Nolan still proves himself to be one of the star director. Nobody cares about who the actors are. He is one of the directors whose name is, right on top of the poster, because people care more that it's a Christopher Nolan film more than anything else. And Tenet is a combination of Inception, with something with a very high concept, and Dunkirk, which is a very loud movie. I think he got his niche now at this point. It's just time plus loud sounds. That's a Nolan movie. And also another thing in my trailer reaction was that I talked about the Russian villain. I said that it's probably a decoy because I thought a Russian evil villain is probably too cliche. Turns out I was wrong. Nolan was really heavily leaning into the stereotype and cliche in this movie. The protagonist, literally the guy is called the protagonist, and then you have the sidekick, and you have the Russian and then the mother. So yeah, I can see why on one side, but also a little bit disappointed. Another thing that I like to mention is that Nolan, as a man, writing these incredible scripts, he often neglects the female experience, I would say, in these movies, because once again, there's only one woman speaking role in this entire movie, and her role is renegated to just being a mother. Although the beginning they talk about how successful she is as an art curator, but then near the end, all of her motivation comes from seeing her child and being a mother. And I'm not saying that mothers is not a valid role for actors to play in and it's not interesting. I'm just saying that it's 2020. There should be more interesting, challenging roles for a female to play in such a big budgeted film. Another thing that I want to talk about is the sound mixing in this film. A lot of people whose review I saw who are from America, they were talking about how when they were watching this film in the cinema, the sound was very loud. There was this one scene in the movie where the protagonist get tortured, and he was in a place where there was trains and there were music and there were also dialogue going on, and people just didn't hear what they were saying. And as a person who is watching this in the Netherlands, I didn't have this issue because we have subtitles. So I didn't even notice that the dialogue was not clear, because every time when the dialogue I don't hear anything, I just read the subtitles and see what the hell is going on. I even do that when I watch Netflix. When there's an English show, I will always put on English subtitles just so I don't have to put so much effort in listening, that I can just watch the thing. Like if there's something that I don't understand, I just go to the subtitles. That's how I watch films. So so I didn't notice that until other people pointing it out, which now thinking back was probably a valid reason why this film was really difficult to follow for some people. Near the third act of this movie turned into a war movie about they had to extract something in Ukraine. And I have to say, it's just, no. I mean, I kind of guessed it, but it felt like Christopher Nolan just got a huge dump of cash from the studio and say, hey, do whatever you want because we know your films are gonna be super successful. So he just made his wildest boyhood dream of directing a war movie into reality in this, because it was unnecessarily, to me, why it needs to take place in such an extravagant way. Also for the people that are watching it, it's it's just confusing. And I agree that it's very cool. You saw a building that was exploding and also building up at the same time and things like that, time inversion happening. It is cool, but it's also very confusing. So going into the confusing part, there were many inconsequential pieces in this film that I thought didn't make sense. This film is dealing with, time going forward and going backwards, right? So if more things go backwards, then the whole world would just fall back and will then just go backwards. And that's what the people in the present time are trying to stop, which is very nice. And they explain it to us a couple of times, so we understand it. But it was never clear to me, how did the protagonist find out where they need to go from there? He was fighting a SWAT team, and then he was fighting in opera, and then he got kidnapped, and then he woke up, and then he knew to go to London, and he met Michael Caine, and then she just gave him a credit card, and then just go wherever you want, just go buy your things, kind of like a dress up montage. And then he just went to India. Maybe I have to watch it again, because I don't understand how the person know where to go, because there was no agency. There was no in James Bond, they have Q that tells James Bond where to go. There is no person like that. Protagonist is just okay, I need to go here now. Okay, I need to go there now. He just knew, and that does not make sense to me. And the film just got bigger and bigger and bigger. He had to protect this woman. Why? Why did you have to protect this woman? What is the protagonist's motivation? Because it wasn't love. They kind of made it ambiguous that whether they in love or not. Why would you care about a stranger's child? why does that matter to you? But you know what? It's important to not think too hard about these things because it's about the concept, guys. It's about the concept. And also, if you attacked his films too much, I'm also afraid of, haters coming at me to tell me that no, Tenet is the greatest film ever released. So I'm just gonna shut up now. Lastly, I need to give my compliments to John David Washington. I first saw this actor in BlacKkKlansman. I thought he did an excellent job. And thanks to his charisma, this film was, for me, saved because he kept my attention for more than 2 hours in this film. His wonderment for the world and his wariness in his eyes, I think he had very little to work with because he had no background information. In fact, none of these characters have a lot of background information to work with, but he still interpreted the script in a way that his way of acting was mysterious, but also was very insightful. So yeah, I'm just trying to say that he did a good job. So I will look forward to what he's gonna make next. Alright, so that was my take on Tenet. Tell me what you thought about the film. Did you like it? Did you hate it? Comment below and let's start a discussion. In the meanwhile, stay safe, wash your hands, and I'll see you next time. Bye!